All right, I want to welcome everybody back to the Real Talk podcast, Final Fantasy XIV, A Realm Reborn, Quickies. With me tonight is Al, as always. What's going on, bro?
Nothing. Cool.
We got Justin, a.k.a. Keto, in the house. What's going on, brother?
What's up?
He's AFK at the moment, but we also have Chrono smoking on that swisher in the house. Oh, never mind. He's right there. And actually, just a quick little backstory. A lot of people have been asking. We are the Real Talk podcast. We are an all-encompassing podcast. However, for most of us, a lot of us play Final Fantasy XIV, which is why we do these quickies, because we like to comment on what goes on in the Final Fantasy world. Just a little backdrop, because a lot of people are like, well, you know, your name doesn't really have anything to do with Final Fantasy or whatever it is, but you guys do Final Fantasy podcasts. But a little backstory is we do, for the most part, all play Final Fantasy. That's why we do them. We enjoy the game. We enjoy keeping up with what's going on in the game or whatever. But we also do have other episodes. You guys are welcome to check them out. They are on the YouTube channel. They're episodes 1 through 6. Pretty soon we're going to be posting episode 7, which is the episode we just recorded earlier on bad movies, and that's the first part of a sequence of podcast we'll be doing on, what we think bad movies are, so on and so forth. But without further ado, today we're going to touch on something that, that's been, reverberating throughout the forums, and that's pretty much this whole leveling thing. We've already touched on it in a previous episode, but it's been pretty rampant again about this whole easy leveling, blah, blah, blah. And also a couple points that we want to touch on from the previous and most recent live letter from the producer, so on and so forth. And Al, you wanted to take something off your chest there real quick, bro, because hit me up. What's going on?
Well, it's it's so frustrating because I've been playing MMOs forever, it feels like. And, I played UO, I played EverQuest, played 11, World of Warcraft, Ion, the list goes on forever. And upon getting back into 14, and experiencing the community on the Lodestone or what have you, it seems to me that people, maybe there might be some masochists out there that like to torment themselves.
Sure.
But this sense of achievement while leveling, I never understood. If we're going to talk strictly on Final Fantasy, in 11 I got 3 classes to 75. Red Mage, White
let me
Mage,
interrupt you real quick,
Mage.
if you don't mind. I think considering your character at max level and achievement kind of pathetic. Or is that just me? I don't know.
Well, and see, this is where the argument comes from. That, they would spend X amount of time getting from point A to B, being the leveling process, and they felt like they had achieved something that they worked so hard on, achieving. And I want to say, given my experience with the game and other MMOs, that when I hit max level, I don't feel like I achieved anything.
Neither do I.
Including Final Fantasy XI.
Same here. And I played for years and years and years.
Yeah, and you played a lot longer than I did.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, I'm not done. So when people come to me and they're like, oh, I feel like, getting my first 75 was such an achievement, I go, really? What the fuck did you do? That was so, was it the fact that you dedicated 300 hours of your life to get to 75 and 225, because the other 75 was waiting to get into a party, 225 hours of that was killing fucking crabs, mandragoras, and the like, just standing in one spot while you were AFK, the tank tanked, and some guy pulled and you just stood there? Is that really the achievement you guys are looking for? The fact that it took you so long to get to max level? To me, when I hit max level, it's like, thank fucking God, I don't have to do that again.
I agree.
But with 11, it was like, yeah, sorry, you kind of do because you need a sub job, and you were like, fuck me, man. So I did that with, my first class was Red Mage. So naturally I went White Mage because guess what? I got into every fucking party because I learned that the hard way. And then I did Blue Mage because it was fun. But this mentality of this long, arduous leveling process that needs to be for the sake of the game to thrive because you keep people there is wrong. And it's been proven time and time again, as long as developers are constantly bringing in new content, that people will stay. It's when the content runs dry that people leave.
Yep.
And unfortunately, with games like Star Wars and other MMOs that have come out in recent history, the developers take for granted the ability of the player to get to max level. So they leave this, they create and release this game with the mentality of someone's going to take 3-4 months to get to max level, and they do it in 2 weeks. And then they're like, oh, well, shit, we don't have any content for them. And I think, on part, and this is just me, just pulling shit out of the air, but honestly, when Final Fantasy XI first released, they didn't have endgame content. So they superfluously extended the leveling grind, and they just left it like that until Abyssia. And because they didn't have anything to put there at the end. So it literally took people forever to level.
I have to correct you on there. The Abyssia, there was plenty of endgame before that, though.
I was talking about the
Rise of the Noir.
No, I said the superfluous leveling process was there until Abyssia came out.
Yes.
Because when they weren't going to completely redesign it every time they came out with an expansion, so they have this crazy long endeavor called leveling in their game, which is like retarded how long it takes to level. Not to mention, God forbid you die, especially at higher levels. You die once, you just lost 3 hours of fucking leveling. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah, man.
And that's not hard. It's mundane, it's tedious, and it's unnecessary. And that's why people left in droves when World of Warcraft came out. That's why people, when they went into 14 and they saw that it was the same bullshit from 11, left in droves. Not to mention the fact that it was a broken game. But they saw that it was like this crazy thing. Like, they obviously didn't fucking learn their lesson, and they left. They left the game.
All right, I'm going to put you on hold here for a second. Justin, you wanted to add something?
I felt pretty good at my first 75, but after that I agree with you. It was a kind of a sigh of relief to get the other things. But I don't... it took me 2 years to get my first two 75s, because I pretty much got them at the same time. But after that, I probably played for 6 more years. So I probably played Final Fantasy XI for at least 7 or 8 years. Mm-hmm. And at the end, I had 12 75s. So it took me 2 years to do 12, or 2 years to do 2, but the next 6 years it took me, I got 10. So, and that was not leveling, full time. Me and Ben were in a link shell that, him and I went from link shell to link shell, two different endgame link shells, where we did something every night for 4 or 5 hours. So there wasn't time to level. So I don't think leveling was as bad as you're making it out to be in 11.
And that was pretty bad, man. Me. I don't know, but I guess it depended on if you were lucky enough to be on a populated server. People are always leveling. My thing, though, is to comment on that.
Okay, it's the people that sat around in town looking for a group.
Sure.
I don't want to hear that was your problem.
No, go out, you make your own party. Yeah.
Especially when Ergon came out, any job could solo its way to 75. Any job.
I don't know if any job could do that, but I'm going to debate you on that, but my main thing is, the main argument that these people have is some sort of journey, whatever. It's about this journey, whatever it is. And,
and 1.014 leveling was retarded easy. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, well...
Especially when there was
not
physical
a release.
Level.
Not a release.
Yes, it was.
No,
especially when you had your physical level up. Me, when I first started 14, I got a craft to level 30 right away. So my physical level was around level 30. I remember taking each one of my jobs and going from 1 to 10 in an hour.
You got 1 to 10. Level. Congratulations! You went to 1 to 10 in an hour.
Every single job. That included Thaumaturge, Conjurer, Archer, and whatever else they were, Lancer, Pugilist, Warrior,
You did all of them in an hour, is what you're saying.
1 to 10. Just because of your physical
An hour
level.
each?
And that's,
or
and, no,
an hour?
1 hour. Because you could go out there with your physical level, pop a lev, and go from 1 to 7 in 1 lev. 1. Because your physical level was so high. And that's why they took physical level away.
This you're talking about initial launch? Because it wasn't like that initial launch. It was not like that.
And that's why they took physical level away.
They took physical level out before the Ifrit patch or whatever it was. That was like years later. I don't know.
It was only out for 2 years, bro.
Oh yeah, 2 years. You know what I mean? Whatever. You get it. Anyways, my whole thing is this whole idea of a journey or whatever, that leveling should be this journey and blah blah blah. Like I said before, I completely disagree with that because number one, leveling is always a means to an end, right? And maybe your first level 75 character will be this journey, but after a while, it's like how many times can you mindlessly grind on crabs, mandragora, goblins, what have you, before it drives you nuts? Grinding on mobs endlessly for hours and hours is not a journey. It's dumb. It's dumb. So I'm much more, these people, I don't get it though, because these people are so into lore. This Final Fantasy, they love story. Oh, Final Fantasy is the best story. The quests offer you way more story than partying does. So I don't get that argument. I'll never understand it. That's my whole beef, I suppose.
You only get the quest once, though. I mean, especially in Final Fantasy XIV. Like you guys said, after that, you're gonna have Fate and all that. You're gonna get tired of doing Fate. You're gonna get tired of grinding. You're only gonna be able to go through the story once. It's not like WoW where you can go through it again on another character.
Well, yeah, there are plenty of ways to level. I mean, there are going to be other questing hubs and stuff like that, and so on and so forth. You're not just going to level in that one area of Gridania. You're going to be able to level in Ul'dah. You're going to be able to level in Limsa and what other little inlets and little towns they'll have around the way as well. It's not going to be just like this one area or whatever. I don't know. I think it's
I'm going to piggyback on what you were saying, and I'm going to read a quote that I quoted you earlier during the week.
Yep.
And somebody said, what makes the journey interesting is not the time sinks and the trite details. Most of it is in the story and how involved you become in the setting itself. With that said, this person goes on to talk about starting out as a warrior and moving around the hamlet of Karanos before being sent on an errand to Ironforge. I'm talking about World of Warcraft, folks. It is here that you get a tiny look at how much a bigger picture in the setup of the Alliance. And they talk about how and he's talking about the quests. If you read the quest dialogue, this is what's going on. You're actually becoming involved. And before you know it, you're level 60. Then he goes on to say the contrast of starting out in Windhurst. Spend more time than I can count killing things by myself out in the field until he was level 10. Then he went to the dunes and endured people first telling him as a Taru what he should be playing a mage job because he started out as a warrior. Did more of the same and then he hit 20 and went to Kufum. Did more of the same and he went more and went into the jungles. Did more of the same and went into Altepa. Did more of the same, he went to Crawler's Nest. Whereas a red mage, I started to get into an argument because I apparently belonged in the back. And as early as level 39, people were asking me to cast Refresh on them. That's my 1 to 5 journey in Final Fantasy XI. Can you guess which of the two I enjoyed more? And the reason is, Final Fantasy XI, you had to search for the story. You had to look for the story. There was you had don't disagree with me because
I'm
can't.
agreeing with you. That wasn't I'm agreeing with you.
I was gonna say you can't because you had to hunt down each specific NPC. You had no idea what was going on, and they may even give you an ambiguous statements that don't even fucking mean anything. So
there was no exclamation point.
Now, granted, if you really wanted to become that involved in the world, once you got past all of the bullshit UI constraints that there were, and you actually maybe enjoyed the game, you went out and you hunted those NPCs because you're like, well, this party shit's getting boring, so let me go find something out about this world that I'm occupying. And you went and talked to every NPC, which were all hidden everywhere. Barely any of them were out in town walking around. So, and you may run into a quest, but you didn't know you just got a quest because they didn't say, hey, your journal was just updated with a quest, and then you went and read the quest dialogue, and it was more ambiguous information that you didn't know what the fuck you were doing. So you're like, okay, well, unless I wrote down exactly what this person just told me, I have no idea what the fuck I need to do. So let me go pull up fucking Wiki, some sort of wiki, and figure out what this person's really trying to tell me to do, and that's the shit I'm talking about. Like this journey that people are talking about, this facade of being involved. You weren't. And granted, the story, if you actually paid attention, was very good. And I'm not going to knock the Final Fantasy XI story. The story was there and it was rock solid. Unfortunately, the developers didn't let you find that out in a coherent way in which it felt seamless. You had to go out of your way to give a shit about what was going on around you. With 14 or even 1.0, you know, they gave you some background before you got in, and then you went and talked to, you know, because of your experiences as 11. Well, they're not going to tell me anything until later. They finally put quest markers on people's heads. But you went and said, oh, well, this guy has something to say. And then the grand companies, the introduction of the grand companies, and them finally coming together with that. And because remember, grand companies weren't at launch either. But grand companies were like the introduction to the main story quest, you know, and being involved in that. And all, so like they were headed in the right direction, and then people were like, why didn't they just continue? Well, that's because Yoshi P was working with what he was given.
Pretty much.
And just to segue back to the leveling process, he knocked down a lot of those bridges that you were talking about with physical level, which I actually kind of enjoyed. It was just overpowered, but it was an interesting idea. But they didn't, and come 1.23, it was a more playable game. It was more playable. It was still the most flawed, broken game I had ever played in my entire life, even at 1.23. When you have all of these other games succeeding in so many different areas, it still felt incredibly broken, not complete at all.
Chrono, you want to add anything? Are you back, or?
Yeah, I actually just got back. I was catching the latter part of what Al was saying in regards to leveling.
And go ahead, sorry.
Oh, no. What were you?
No, I just think that, you know, like I said, segueing back to the leveling process, that it doesn't need to be this arduous process that it has always been in a Final Fantasy game. At least, you know, in some Final Fantasies, I'll tell you, people talk about, you know, the single-player Final Fantasies. And like, oh, well, you had to go grind and stuff on mobs. You didn't really. As long as you killed things on the way from point A to point B, you were always where you needed to be.
Pretty much.
But then, guess what? You beat the game and you were still only like level 50, maybe level 60.
Mm-hmm.
But the level cap's 99. What's that for? Oh my god, there's other bosses that I can kill? That's what I'm talking about.
Yep.
So if you think you take the story from a single-player Final Fantasy and you say, hey, when you complete the story, that's max level, then all the other bullshit is your end game. Like, the fun in going and killing Sephiroth with Omni Strike with a hit with 9,999, or in Final Fantasy X when you can finally break the damage barrier and you were doing 30,000 damage to the mob, you know, and you used your blitz ball or whatever the hell you were doing, you know, and that was fun. That was the end game. That was the part of the game that extended its life. You know,
Blitzball was great, and I had every single one of my characters in 10 with a complete sphere grid. So Lulu would drop her little onion knight and hit for 100,000 damage.
Well, exactly, and that's what I'm talking about. So people like have like leveling is like you were saying, a means to an end. This journey that people got, it was the outcome of what Square Enix did because of how tedious the leveling process is. So people would meet people because the way they structured the leveling system, you had to party with people, and it's all just like that journey people talk about is, you know, meeting these people and gaining friendships. Well, what the fuck else were you supposed to do when you were mindlessly killing crabs? Just look at your crotch the entire time? No, you conversed with the other you conversed with the other people that were in the party who were just as fucking bored as you were.
And listen, man, like I've said this before, you know, to me, like I said, the real bonds and friendships were made during Endgame, because that's where the strategy and all that stuff and cooperation really mattered. You know, the crab isn't going to do some fucking epic move, you know, it uses fucking steel. It uses fucking steel skin, or whatever the fuck it was called, or cocoon, or whatever it was called. I don't remember anymore. You know, like that's not, you know, like that's not a, you know, when Ifrit's going to 2-hour, blah, 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 or you know when Garuda's plumes are, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, that shit, to me, matters more than what, you know, some crab is going to do. He's doing that bubble move or some bullshit. Whatever. Fuck that. Chrono, do you want to add something, bro? Or do
Bubble shower.
Bubble shower, yes. You want to add anything, Breh?
Shoot, man. I pretty much just agree with, you know, a lot of what you guys are saying. Final Fantasy XI, that was my first MMO. So I don't really have anything to really compare to other than Final Fantasy XIV. But I mean, it's an MMO, man. You know, it's gonna take time. Like Al said, a means to an end. The whole leveling process, yeah, it's arduous, it's boring, it's tedious, but you know, like everything else in this world, in this life, you know, it is what you make it. You can make it real fun by interacting with people and, you know, joking around, having a good time, shooting the shit, or it could be a real, you know, terrible time.
One more thing too. I'm going to add the whole grinding bullshit or whatever nowadays is that doesn't cut it in today's market anymore. You know what I'm trying to say? That's why I feel like a lot of these Korean MMOs, which are all mostly grind fests, don't really last that long. Or is that just me?
Oh no, you're absolutely right. However, Ion's actually really
I know
very
Ion
well
is
right now.
The exception to the rule. But you know what I mean, though. Like, I mean, these extreme grind fests or whatever, it just doesn't cut it anymore. You know, maybe back in the day when the MMO market wasn't so saturated, but nowadays when there's so many options and stuff, you got to stay competitive. And this is the way they stay competitive: quest-based leveling, which is fine, and as long as they have solid end game content, which, you know, in the live letter it's mentioned at least 16 to 18 dungeons upon release. You know, should keep the masses busy for quite a bit until, you know, a future patch or an expansion or whatever. So these people need to chill the fuck out and, you know, not to sound all white knightish, but like let the fucking game be released. You know, chill the fuck out. Anyways, I'm gonna end this real quick. We went over shit, but this has been the Real Talk Podcast, Final Fantasy XIV, Realm Reborn, Quickie. I think this is part 7. Don't remember anymore. Doesn't matter. Enjoy it. Check out the Facebook page. Check out the YouTube videos. They're gonna be all linked at the bottom of the video. Thanks for listening. Thanks, Chrono. Thanks, Al. Thanks, Justin. We'll holler at you guys later. Peace.